Alrighty, so we're going to take a look at this Caveo dimple lock. Relatively new to market in the UK. I have the public first pick of this somewhere on my channel. It is fully pinned, if I can get the key in. These things are spectacularly janky. There we go. I've marked the key just because it's actually normally the depth stop is the cam, so you can push this too far in, then it won't operate. But that's the spot we're going for. So it is fully pinned. It does work. If we do what I'm going to try and do, we will take it apart. This is the other side, the other part of it that I've taken to bits. So it's got 6 pins, a couple of security pins, this like serrated thing. See the sidebar and everything. The interesting thing is the sidebar in these. So let's take that out of there for a moment. So let's look at these two keys. The sidebar is identical, and if you buy a bag of blanks, you can just buy these off the internet. You don't have to give them a sidebar code. Now, this was first noticed by Rainder on the LPU Discord. We did a group buy of these a while ago, and as they started piling in and being distributed, Rain noticed that the sidebars were always the same. Did a bit of internet snooping and couldn't actually find any pictures of this lock where the sidebar is different. I spoke to the manufacturer, who confirmed that they weren't able to supply ones with different sidebar codes. So if we look at the key code for this particular lock, it is 114322 11322C. 11322C is the sidebar code, right? So 11322, I think C is the key profile probably. And then this is 114322 is the top stack bitting on this one. There's only 4 possible cut heights on this, and the sidebar codes are always the same. You can just buy blanks with the sidebar code on. So if we have a key cut to like 4444444 11322, you get this, which is now a foil impressioning key. Like we've neutralized the sidebar, which would normally protect against attacks like this, just because we can just order a blank with the sidebar on, so the sidebar offers no protection against impressioning attacks. Any key for this lock that you can buy will have the correct sidebar bitting for any other example of it, and then we can try and do foil impressioning. So I am using just AliExpress budget foils. They come in like a container of this with like 1,000 in. I'm setting that into the lock and getting it kind of in place. And then the only other thing I'm using, or have been using, is the other part, the core from the other side of this. I'm just using it to like set the foil into the key a little bit. So when you put it into the live lock, it doesn't get like instantly chewed up by the keys. So we're going to get this set up in the vise, and we're going to grab a pair of muzzle grips and have a go see if we can't get this open on camera. I have managed to do this attack exactly once with this lock. Here it is. I will take it apart if we get it open. I'm not going to, not going to have anyone say that it's not got all the elements in, or you've taken the sidebar out. None of that. We'll get it if we get it open. So we'll make sure that stays in frame and do this properly. Let's take my foil and just make sure that's going to work, and then it needs to be facing down because that's where the pins are now. And I should have marked the depth on. Oh no, there you go. Should have marked the depth mark on the top of the key just for ease, but it should be somewhere around there. So I will draw another mark up here. The reason we're doing that is, again, because there's no cam in this lock. It's been cut in half, and if we don't line it up properly, the sidebar won't be in the right place. So yeah, we won't be able to do the attack. So that should be about right. And then I'll grab our muzzle grips, and we will commence wiggling. hopefully, this vice is a little bit wobbly. Hopefully if we wiggle appropriately, we will start to get this thing open. I'm just being careful that I'm not pulling the key out of the lock as we do this. Noises the farmer outside cutting the grass, so yeah, apologies, but it is what it is when you live in the countryside. My depth mark and just continue wiggling this back and forward. The good thing about this is the keys are super chunky, so we're not going to run any risk of like accidentally snapping the key. The reason I got this made in metal rather than the plastic keyboard blank is the plastic ones don't go all the way into the plastic. It's just kind of firmer set on there, so that probably would just snap off. But the metal ones are solid metal, so that was nice that they provided one suitable for the attack. Not using too much tension, but enough that I would be worried about the plastic keyboard one snapping. So even with the mole grips, it still cramps the hand a little bit, especially trying to do it on camera. And there we go, so that is open. So let's take the mole grips off. And you can see now that it's free to just fully turn. So let's get that gutted. Make sure we don't take it out of frame. Device down there. Don't need that anymore. So yeah, this is, it's turning. If the camera's in there, the lock would be operating. So let's take the foil out and have a look at that. You can see we've made foil. Put that lock there for a moment, and yeah, let's take the foil off, put that to one side, and then the first thing I'm going to do, see this key doesn't operate the lock, so unsurprisingly this is, it's all 4 cuts, so there was zero chance that was ever going to operate that lock. So let's get a pinning tray out. And we will start taking this to bits. I need my maybe circuit pliers, but I'll try with a good old gut wrench first. Yeah, I need circuit pliers. One moment. Here we are. Circlips are always the hardest parts on these things. There we go, so you should be able to get a more substantial tool behind that now. Right, take the circlip off. And then the next thing we're going to do is undo these grub screws, because they're there, so we'll take the pin stacks out via the grub screws, and then it just makes taking the core out a little bit easier. So let's see if we've got the right size hex wrench for these. Cool. So let's get that taken apart. We'll start with pin 1. Grub screw. And let's get the spring. And then there's no orientation really on these pins, so we'll just dump them out. And you'll see after that you can't actually put these key pins in upside down, so there's no possible way of cheating that. It's not like a gin spool or anything where you can make the lock easier by putting them in upside down. So we'll do it the quick way. spring. This is like a pin-in-pin anti-bump kind of thing, which is kind of cool. Pin 3. So that's our spool. We will compare the internal bitting to the external bitting once we get this fully gutted on camera. Club screw. Another one of those little pin-in-pin things. I think these are for anti-bump. They don't really impact picking or impressioning or anything because there's not a pin-in-pin driver, so it's got to be for bump protection. Which is interesting that they included those, because you would think a properly designed sidebar lock would not need bump protection, because the sidebar bitting should be unique enough that you can't create a bump key. So I wonder if they knew there was something untoward going on. And there's always one of these club screws that won't come out, so we shall have to gut that last pin the old-fashioned way, I think. Unless I could, yeah. I don't want to destroy my nice tools trying to gut that, so we'll do that one the old-fashioned way, and we'll get the sidebar out at the same time. So that's the follower I need. Bring a caution in. Where's my operating keys? There they are. Oops, yep, you are loose in there, aren't you? That would be bad if we speed gutted it after all that. So we'll put a shim and our follower, and we shall gut that. Take our last pin out. Yeah, let's do the sidebar. So there's the sidebar. Put you there. And here are the sidebar springs, so they are in there. And I'm going to get a thinner set of tweezers to get those sidebar pins out. If I can find my tweezer set, one moment. There we go. The last thing I want to do now is lose a sidebar spring when we are trying to do the on-camera. Definitely didn't cheat this gut. So that's the sidebar, and then these are the sliders. So let's take our top stack out first, and then we will then we'll get the sliders out. There's my pinning tweezers. So that one is just a standard, and then there's the spring. Obviously the grub screw is still at the top of the core, can't get that one out. Apart from that, there's nothing really remarkable about this lock body. Like there's the sidebar groove, and some anti-snap stuff. That's it, basically. The only other modification I've done to this is literally to cut it in half. So no other changes. Right, let's take the sliders out. So first of all, I put this key in its operating, like at the point where it would be, where the mark is. You can see the sliders are lined up in there. So let's just take that key out, bring in my other key, and line that up, and you can see the sidebar, like the sliders they're all lined up. It is the correct bitting, and that goes for any blank that you can get for this. And again, all credit for the initial discovery of that vulnerability lies with Rain, so I don't want to take any credit for that discovery. That was entirely on Rain. And then we'll take our sliders out. Apologies for my neighbour's dog deciding to bark in the background. And then we'll get our sidebar springs. I think I might just dump those out. They are fairly tiny little things. I don't want to lose them. I did lose one when I was gutting the other half of this lock, so fortunately these locks are cheap. A little bit of impressioning foil came out, that's fine. So let's take that one and then our last one. Oops. There we go. So that's the core. So there's no modifications to this. It's essentially factory new, right? It's never been installed. I actually bought it to install and then ordered the wrong size, so it's been a science lock from that point forward. And then kind of just proving the orientation of these pins doesn't matter. They won't go in if you put them in upside down, like the key pin will sit above, so they have to go with the wide bit at the top, so there's no way I've been able to mess with this to make the foil impressioning easier. So there we go. That is a foil impressioning attack against the Caveo series of locks. So if you want to have one of these keys ordered, you can go online. It will ask you, there's loads of places that do these. You want to get the metal one. I'd say the plastic ones are probably too flimsy for this. And the maximum number of cuts you can have is 7. So when you're asked for the code, you want to do 7777777-11322-C, and then you'll get one of these in the post. Grab some of these Chinese foil impressioning sets from AliExpress, and you can go and foil impression pretty much any of these that you can find in the field. So, yeah, there we go.